approving a special call board of mayor Aldermen meeting on Wednesday, September 21st, 2022 at 5:30 p.m. for the following: new business interim directors, 2 tourism commission appointments, 3 water sewer director positions. The call sheet is signed by the mayor, Vice Mayor Messick, Alderman French, Alderman Anderson, Alderman Bellamy, even though I think for the record he's not here, and Alderman Joey Hobbs and Alderman Donnie Parson.
Alderman French.
Here.
Alderman Anderson. Here. Alderman Bellamy. Alderman Hobbs.
Here.
Vice Mayor Messick.
Here.
Alderman Parsley.
Here.
For the new business, we have a discussion of the interim directors and their pay. Do I hear a motion to go into interim director position? Do I hear a motion to either?
Need a motion to talk about it?
I guess not. Okay. The floor is now open for board discussion. At this time, I'd like to say that we're looking at the pay for the interim, and I know that at the last meeting we voted to make it retroactive. A mayor can do it for 30 days, but right now but we did say that interim pay, we will come up with interim pay scale. I don't have the authority to set interim pay directors, and the floor is now open of what we feel like the interim pay should be.
I'll start just by saying, I think it was, when it came out last meeting, I said, and I still think so, this ought to be policy that we create, and it's automatic, and it's applied moving forward. If a position opens up, once an interim is appointed, either by the mayor or by the board, that there's a process in place, and that is the standard. Now, I will also say this: there was a movement some number of years ago to move department heads to equal pay across the board. I thought that was ludicrous then. I think that's ludicrous now. There's, in my opinion, there's no reason for department heads to all be making the same amount of money. They come into the industry at different times, they have different levels of experience, different levels of education. We also handicap ourselves in a hypothetical if you're trying to negotiate to bring someone in for a vacancy. You're locked in by this policy of everybody making the same amount of money. So I think your money should be based on your credentials. And that should be an assessment ongoing by the board and by the committees that oversee those departments. It just makes a lot. I don't think it's anywhere else like that. You go to Walmart, department heads don't make the same amount of money. It's based on experience and history and what they bring to the table. And that's no doubt that on anybody here. Obviously, that is just thinking ahead. So I think with those factors, we need to have a formula in place where someone is named interim, that formula determines what their pay is. It doesn't have to be the top of the scale, it doesn't have to be the bottom of the scale. I don't know if you do an average of all the department heads' salaries or what, but that's something in the policy. I'm talking long term, right? So my interest in this is not short term. My interest in this is long term. I think our openings will hopefully soon be filled, and this will be less of a conversation for the short term. But long term, I'm just advocating for the policy to be thoughtful in those senses. One, we should move away from everyone making the same amount of money. 2, we should have a formula in place when that vacancy happens of what that pay would be. And so that way there's no favoritism. It's just simply, this is the person, they're the interim, and the formula determines their salary. In the meantime, is this amount of money. And hopefully we won't have to address back pay again. If we have this, there won't be any need for back pay. It will already be in place. So that's my piece. I'll let you guys determine what the language of any potential vote will be from there, but that's my thoughts on it. I'd love to hear everybody's thoughts on it.
We have two people that have been carrying that moved from assistant. How do we address that? What's your opinion?
Well, my opinion is I think that they should be brought to what the previous director's salary was at the point, and be paid until that vacancy is filled. I don't disagree with Ryan on what he's saying as far as everybody's pay being equal or the same, because I don't agree with that right there. But in the situation being, here's where we're at. And these people are filling in these positions, I think they should be paid to fill in these positions.
Has anybody been named? Do we actually have anybody named as interim director?
I have not formally done that. At the last meeting, it was brought up, and I appreciate you bringing that up. But the last meeting, it was not addressed, the actual pay. I do not have the authority to set the pay, and I had not formally done it. I admit that. So it wasn't anything on record. I'm not trying to cheat anybody out, but I didn't have the authority to set the pay. We have a situation where Adam Floyd took over as the assistant chief. He stepped into the police, the chief's job, and he's been doing a great job. He's been carrying on. We have a situation where before Brian Pennington left, he was given extra because of his experience, the job he's doing. It was running smoothly. So that was a little. Does Dana get the same price, same amount of money that Brian got? Because we pulled out that everybody gets the same pay. That's what we need to. There was weight on Brian because of his education, his experience, his years on. So that's the question that I asked of this board.
So, I mean, my comments were, I like Ryan's idea of putting something in place that carries forward, right? Going backwards is going to be a little tougher because we were caught off without having something to handle, how you handle this when it happens. As far as pay goes, my only concern about paying somebody, the directors or interim directors pay the same, is what happens if that person isn't the one who ends up with the job. You know, then you're going to have to go back to a pay scale for that person. So that's my only concerns with the pay, but I think that to address backwards is going to be very hard, and it's going to be very messy. To go forward with a new policy on how you handle things moving forward is probably right for the future, but it still leaves the question what you do about the two gentlemen today that fill in. I don't have that answer, but that's kind of my thought process on it. Is you have to look at how we put something in place to handle it forward. It's automatic. The pay has to be part of a formulation of some sort to come up with a number that's fair for them to do the job. This is kind of where I am.
So are we going to have, we're going to have Adam Floyd as 70 and Dana as 125, which was based on college education, experience, handling the whole. So that is a question that I think we need to answer.
I got something to say about that. Adam at 70 is fine, okay? Dana at 125 is just nothing fine about that. Dana, Brian's making 72. How did Sam Lee, Brian got that last paycheck for $125,000? I don't know this day, I don't understand. But as far as I was concerned, in my mind, and I think everybody on the board thought, that we offered to pay Dana, to pay Brian $125,000 if he'd stay. He didn't stay. So I don't think Dana, or Brian, I'm sorry, should have ever got paid $125,000 that last paycheck. I think that's a mistake. Now, I don't mind going back and paying Dana what Brian was making. And going back from the day Dana took over to the present and into the future until we hire somebody. I don't mind paying him $72,000 whatever a year. And I don't think that's right going forward. I'm with you guys on that. But I think that's a solution to this problem. But as far as the $125,000 is concerned, I don't think Brian should have got paid that at one time. We voted to give him that if he would stay, and he didn't accept it.
You know, of course, we wasn't on the board here, and I didn't realize that he had been paid that amount.
One check, one time, right? Don't know why, don't know how it happened. I think it was a mistake. So I think that just needs to be taken off the table. Forget that $125,000 a year paycheck. That's what I think. And Ryan wants to speak.
Wait a minute. So again, stepping out of what's in front of us today, because I really hate that we need to have this conversation about people. This sucks. This should be policy,
It should.
and it should just be written. To the point of, so I'm gonna take that out, but to Alderman Parsley's point of just raising them to what the director was making. Again, try to take out today, and I know that's hard to do, but the reason I said maybe you do an average of, you take all the department head salaries and you give them an average salary based on that. The reason I said that is because hypothetically speaking, or hopefully, we will only be using this policy in most cases when people retire and move on. And when that's the case, that ought to be one of our higher paid department heads at that point, right? Because if we base it on experience and reviews annually and things like that, then the only hope that this is the most we've had there, but in the Yogi situation, you retire. If that's a situation, and then Adam comes in and we just give Adam Yogi's salary, then Adam's automatically going to be one of the higher paid department heads. And I don't think that's the intent. And then as far as rolling it back, that's also, I mean, I see that. The other point I thought was made in all this that is good was, is there a current interim? There's not. I think that's real simple to fix in this policy too, that at the date of the resignation of the director, the mayor has an opportunity to appoint someone
For 30 days.
for 30 days. The board has the opportunity to extend that if they would like. If neither of those things happen, we have an assistant director or an assistant chief in all of our departments. That person automatically fills the role until the long-term solution is put in place. So I think this conversation is good because we've identified different issues outside of the ones that are just here right now. I'll be completely honest with you, there's just not been a lot of department head turnover over the years. And this hasn't been thought through, and it needs to be in place for sure. And I agree, these people, I mean, that next day, it's almost a bigger burden being an interim person than having that job. Because the pressure's on you immediately, and the political atmosphere obviously is not. None of us would even be in the political element of this from their perspective, let alone ours. So I think it's a tough job. I think they need to be paid. I will say this, I am for back paying, whatever the formula works out, whatever we say their salary is, I am for back paying them to that point in this situation. But I think moving forward, it becomes immediate, you don't have to worry about that. In this case, I did pay for back pay, regardless. And I'll name the back pay. I think it needs to go to Adam and to Dana both, because they have been, whether there's been an official appointment of interim or not, they were the assistants, they were the number twos, they stepped in and filled the role, regardless of whatever flag was cemented on the board. They're doing the job right now.
So, and Alderman French is speaking to the point of the matter. After the motion was passed last board meeting, and after going back and looking at what the wording was, it was amended to include Alderman French's portion of it that said only if they're appointed interim. So I went back to look at the charter, and you're exactly right. The mayor has the right to appoint an interim. The board of mayor and aldermen has the right to accept that appointment or appoint their own or appoint the permanent replacement. So since neither of those things happened, we had a motion that was passed that had no effect because nobody was named interim director yet. So I don't know if everybody got my opinion on that, but so the reason why this is on the agenda tonight is for two reasons. One, what the mayor just said, even if she had named somebody in interim, there's a question about what she could place their salary at. But two, we need somebody, if they're going to get back pay, they need to be named interim by the board of mayor and aldermen tonight. And I think once that happens, if they're named interim, then the back pay motion from last month kicks in.
All right, I'm gonna make two motions. The first motion, I'd like to carry off of will be an ordinance, right? So this will be second reading, or, because the motion we made last week to actually establish this should have been the first reading of the ordinance. So this will be second reading, right? So this will be finalized. So I'm gonna make a motion that in the event someone retires, resigns, or there's a vacancy of a department head, that the mayor may appoint an interim director, and that interim director will be paid an average salary of the current directors in place. And following that, if the mayor does not appoint an interim director, that the board may appoint an interim director. Now, this can't conflict with the charter without a charter change, so that will still be in place.
But I think what you described, Alderman, is what the charter says.
Yeah. And then third and final, if there's not an agreement on an interim director by the mayor or the board of mayor and aldermen, then this will be an addition, and that will only be in ordinance form, that the assistant director automatically become the director interim. And that's the motion I'll put on the floor. So it addresses everything that we talked about. Pay, moving forward, who gets it, how it's established. It doesn't conflict with the charter because it reflects the first two elements of that, but adds a third element. If there is no agreement, the assistant director goes in place. I'll make that formal motion.
I'll second it, because I have two questions on those two motions.
I haven't made the second motion yet.
Okay, well, I'll second the first one.
We have a motion and a second on the, would you explain your motion again?
Yes. Okay, so my motion is to follow the charter on the appointment of an interim director as it states. Mayor has the ability to do so. If the mayor does not, then the board will. I don't like that the charter gives the board the authority to override that. I think you're the chief executive. I think the seat's the chief executive, but that's a charter argument. We can't change that right now. The second thing I address in the third part element of that is if there's not an agreement from the board of mayor and aldermen and the mayor as to who the director is, that the assistant director automatically fulfill the role. Separately, it also addresses the pay scale, that whoever is named director in the interim will pay an average of the current director's salaries. And that's important terminology too, current directors. So that's not the retired director that just left. That's the current director's remaining average salary.
When does it become automatic? When does that become automatic if nobody's available?
Yeah, I think the next board meeting after the term, but it would give the board one meeting to make an appointment.
So does that mean 30 days?
30 days, put 30 days, yeah.
Okay, the motion is as Alderman French stated. It has been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
I have a question. I'm not opposed to it. I think it's a good idea. I just have, first thing, I want to point out that if every department head gets paid the same, the average is going to be the department. Now, I hope we change that in the future. Okay? And one thing I'd like to make sure that kind of gets added to that is that interim director doesn't have the power to hire and fire without the mayor's permission. Because I'd hate to have an interim director move in and fire half the department before you hire a full-time director to come in. And I'm good with it over that.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I'll amend my original motion so we don't have to have an amendment addition, but I'll amend my original motion that that.
So like what you're saying, what you're adding to is they have no control over the department.
The mayor has to agree.
Mayor has to agree.
In that interim basis,
For the
right?
interim basis, yes.
So if they become the field position, and they take all authorities.
So there may be a process in place to help alleviate those concerns. Our personnel policies state that a director can fire or hire somebody, but that person has the right to appeal that decision to the mayor and then to the board of mayor and aldermen. And they got to do so within 7 days. So it should alleviate the concern that an interim director would go in and fire somebody for no reason without cutting their hamstrings and saying they can't discipline or do anything to somebody who's not doing the job. So I'd throw that out there.
So I'd still like to keep it like it is. So like the mayor to be in on hiring and firing. Because you could have a department head where there's two factions. And one person is having and he gets rid of his enemies. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but it could.
So my question, Mr. Johnson, is, I mean, is that something we just need to add to that? Is it not just the director, but an interim director, so that they get the same 7-day?
I think it would apply either way.
Okay.
I don't think a department head, whether they're interim or not, a department head, whether they're interim or not, currently in the personnel policy has the right to discipline or fire, I believe, unless the position has some other authority over them. If they were to do so, the employee has the right to appeal that to the mayor and then on to the board of mayor and aldermen. So if it was a situation where an interim director did clean house or fire people for no reason, the process is in place through our personnel policy to catch that and it not become an issue if it was an issue.
So that's your motion, or do you want to change that part since the policy's going to override that anyway?
I'm going to leave the addition, and here's why. I have been through those, and even in a fluid situation where you have permanent folks in place, the vulnerability that surrounds the entire department when you have to go through that process is real, and it's divisive, it's hard on all the employees. So if we could just forego ever having to address that while we have an interim, I think that we would add that into this and alleviate that concern. Because while there is a mechanism in place, that mechanism is hard also, and it's difficult in the department, so.
So you can't do it.
And in my understanding, Judge, I think this would be the case, but even with this new policy that the interim does bring to the mayor, I want to fire this person, that person would still have rights to appeal, even after that process. I just feel like that having the mayor's interaction with it would make it a bit more of a process. It would discourage it, I would believe.
So that's first. And I'd like to have a comment. Anytime you have a director that leaves, you're going to have some unsettled, which we've been going through, and and I can say that with employees wanting to move to one department to the next, and we did say that nobody moves at this time. Nobody moves from sewer to the water department. We're holding that spot. But there was a lot of restlessness, and I did not see the director, the assistant director, but there is a shakiness going on during that. So do I hear a motion that we would if that the interim will come in agreement with the mayor before.
I'm just going to add that into my original motion so we don't have to amend.
Okay, so that's going to be in.
Is my original motion.
Okay. So what does this look like tonight?
Well, if I would like to call a vote on that, but if we must, my secondary motion, I'm going to make a motion that an employee be placed in the interim position for the chief's position and back pay. And I'm going to make a motion, in that same motion, that Dana Douglas be placed in the interim position and back pay. That's the second motion I intend to bring. If it has any bearing on this motion, or your thoughts on this motion.
So the motion that the interim pay would be
An average of the
an
existing.
average of the department. Not getting the same amount of money that necessarily that the director gets. Good. Good, that's the motion. Any more discussion on this?
So we're not voting on who we're going to place. We're just voting on your motion. Okay.
So we do not have to have the same salary as the director who left. We will make that decision on the average.
Should be the average of the remaining directors.
Directors, okay, all right. Everybody good? Everybody understand? Okay. The motion is that the interim will get the average pay that the city directors are making. The motion has been moved and seconded. No more discussion from the board? Call the roll, please.
Alderman French.
Aye.
Alderman Anderson. Aye. Alderman Bellamy. Alderman Hobbs.
Aye.
Alderman Vice Mayor Messick. Alderman Parsley.
I'd like to entertain a motion that we name Madam Floyd the Assistant Police Chief with back pay in the interim, Dana Douglas, the Water and Sewer Director in the interim with back pay to the date of the resignation from the previous directors.
You wouldn't want to split those, would you?
I'm sorry.
I said you wouldn't want to split those, would you?
So that means Adam will make 72.
No, we'll make the average, but the policy we just passed,
Okay.
and this will apply to them.
And Dana will make, Dan Douglas will make
The average of the existing.
72.
I don't want to split them, but that's my motion, so if it doesn't get a second, I understand.
Okay, do I have a second? Everybody understand that they both get the same amount?
Yeah, I'd like a second for discussion.
Okay, the floor is open for discussion, that both get the average pay of directors. Any discussion?
keep my mouth shut. I've learned how.
Any more discussion?
I think I have a question about the agenda item number 3, the water sewer director position. I saw in the packet that we have one person's resume. Are we going to call that to a vote tonight? And if we are, that might affect.
That's pulled.
Okay, I didn't get that information about that being pulled.
Okay. Call the roll, please. You have any more comments on this?
Is this the second and final reading, or does it have to be read again since we changed it from the first reading?
This is the motion that tonight.
We vote.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that question was not the last motion. Like Ryan's policy changes for the interim directors, will the changes that he made to that, will that necessitate a second reading, or will it be okay to go just as it is?
I made a motion to amend the first reading. We'll go back to that.
And so it would be, I don't know what the time period is, but you haven't put out a notice yet for the next board mayor.
Correct.
So it could be a second reading on the next board mayor.
Well, was it not similar enough to the motion we made at the last meeting? Because you can amend after first reading, you can amend, that was my intent, was to amend the first reading or the second reading. Because all we did was add a couple of extra caveats in there.
I'll have to research that. I don't know. My hope is it would be, but since you set salaries and did other things, it might be outside the scope of what would be constituted.
So,
We got,
well, so
You can vote on it.
to Alderman Anderson's point then, I will include all the language from that initial motion into this motion as well, so that that all of that language applies to this motion.
and it would go tonight.
So my question then is that it would become effective until the second reading?
Then tonight would be the second reading.
No.
Huh?
According to what we
I think the intention of his amendment to the motion is to make, and I guess we'll have to go through it.
So on the policy, yeah, sorry, Darren, on the policy perspective, correct. But on the pay perspective, I'm just going to say, I'll make it in this motion, X and X are made interim and paid the average of the existing salaries now. Now, the policy will protect that moving forward, but tonight, I'll just make that as an individual motion for resolution to name these interim positions. If that's possible,
Would you add one more piece of that to it about the, and able to let people go without the mayor?
yes, yeah, I'd include that too.
Okay, so we can vote on what's happening. And I just want to say, I would be relieved because I am not trying to, I have a stone wall. I answer to legal process and I'm trying to follow, I'm not out to gouging the water and sewer commissioner did not set it in policy, then I would just be relieved that the board makes it, if we make a decision tonight, that I'm going to be fair, and I certainly will follow the book. Thank you. Okay, any more discussion?
I'll just quickly say that this now includes amendment or influence from every alderman that's here. So when we have these conversations, we should work through these policies and make good policy moving forward. So I mean, we have to, 5 of us, and the boss back to 6 of us and 7, we have to commit to continue to work together to clear these policies. Because there's a lot of things like this in our book of ordinances and charter that need to be looked at. And if you're thoughtful about it, we can do this and be fair. So I appreciate everyone's influence on it.
Any more discussion on this? Then that's what we're voting on?
Not for sure.
Okay. Alderman French, would you restate your motion? I'm going to write it.
I will vote no.
I'm making a motion that we appoint Adam,
I got you. I'm good.
and that we include that they are restricted on personnel, and that they're paid the average salary of the remaining directors, and
We got it.
One through the mayor.
Each one would get
Yeah,
the same amount. Okay. Any more discussion?
The third part of that I asked you to include was about that we can't hire people without the mayor.
that's what I was saying, the policy, the restriction on personnel.
And thank goodness we have, you can count
On
on
the back
that.
pay, and that's the third thing I can remember, and that we back pay them to the date of resignation.
So is discussion still open?
Go ahead.
All right, I'm going to have some discussion out here. Well, the reason I'd like to see it split is because I can vote for Adam Floyd to be interim, but I'll not vote for Danny Douglas to be interim. So call the vote and I'll pass, or I'll vote no. Or the other. Just want everybody to know where I stand.
Alderman French.
Aye.
Alderman Anderson.
Aye.
Alderman Hobbs.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Messick.
No.
Alderman Parsley.
Aye.
That's 4 yes.
All right. So right now, we have Adam Floyd, and we have David Douglas as interim. Are you making a motion that somebody else be interim?
No, the vote's already taken.
I know, but I mean, we could, hey, we've still got time to put someone in this interim. I just want to make sure, okay, good. Okay,
I'm good, let's go.
all right.
Last thing, is just to back to Alderman Anderson's point, I would like to have, if we get some clarification on that next 2 days, if that is in the
I know exactly where I'm going to do my research.
I've already done it. No, just kidding. I would never do that.
Okay, moving down to Tourism Commission appointments. We have you guys, everybody's been given the list, and actually, we've got 3 openings. We could go with 2 tonight, or we could go for 3 tonight, because it was advertised as their openings. So, we can do like we did when we appointed ECD, that everybody had a vote. We can call, everybody has a call 2 or 3, and then we tally it all up, or we can just go with somebody make a motion that we pick out 3 and we go from there.
Mayor, I'll make a motion on 2 of them. We can do all 3, it doesn't matter.
Let's do all.
Do all 3.
Here's your
Okay.
two.
My 2 is Lori West and Aaron Miller T.
We doing 2 or 3?
I just see 3.
Well,
We can do 3. We will do 3.
we've had a 3rd vacancy.
What's Kevin Cheryl's name? Was it not on there last
He
time?
withdrew, yes.
So how about Lord West and Aaron, Gee, and Joe Cheryl? Would you be all right with that?
We have the first one. Okay, are we going down the line?
Yes, you got 3? Oh, no?
We just added Joseph Cheryl to his too.
Okay.
So is that a motion we can second?
Pardon?
Is that a motion that we can second?
We're just gonna go down the list and,
I mean, did he make that motion?
Yes, I made a motion on the 3.
okay. Do I hear a second that we choose 3 tonight?
Yes.
Well,
Any discussion? Call the roll, please.
The 3 people.
3 people. We're voting that we're gonna do 3 instead of 2.
Are we going to tally?
And then we're gonna go back to counting. So right now, the motion is is that we will pick 3 instead of 2, and there's a second. Any discussion on it? Call the roll, please.
Alderman French.
Pass.
Alderman Anderson. Aye. Alderman Hobbs.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Messick. Alderman Parsley.
Okay, we're gonna go down the list and tally. Alderman Parsley.
Well, we had a motion on the floor for those 3 people, did we not?
Well, we hadn't decided to do 3, and we made a motion that we would do 3 instead of 2.
So can I make a motion right now that we put Joe Sherrill, Aaron Miller, Kahili, and Lori West on?
Okay. Do I hear a second on that?
Yes.
Any discussion? Call the roll, please.
Alderman French.
Pass.
Alderman Anderson. Aye. Alderman Hobbs.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Messick. Alderman Parsley.
Okay, number 3 is pulled. Applicant pulled out his application. And we will not discuss it. We'll be discussing that. It was late in the game. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Absolutely.
Second.
Any discussion? Call the roll, please.
Alderman French.
Aye.
Alderman Anderson. Aye. Alderman Hobbs. Vice Mayor Messick. Alderman Parsley.